haven't done a movie review in quite a little while. I think the last one I talked about was some off of Tubi, and the last time I talked about a good movie was even longer. Was that like a year ago when I talked about Sinners? And then before that was another year or something like that when I talked about The Substance. But it's also been a while since so many people online and people that I know personally have suggested I watch a movie in theaters. And when you've had 15 people from different areas of your life ask you, have you seen Obsession? I think it's time to maybe consider seeing Obsession. It's been a while since I've walked away from a movie with such a deep-seated gnawing dread in the pit of my stomach. After the washes of that go by, it just had me ruminating and swirling and spiraling a little bit around this vague drain of despair that a good ass horror movie can do to you. Oh, it's so good. Yum, 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 yum. I've been saying this for years, but it does seem like horror is the genre that, despite not really being considered or respected around award season, it's where some of the most thrilling and innovative works are coming from. And to put it quite simply, there's a lot of shit to be scared of. We're in active fascism. Why not really hone in on that human experience of fear to make something that makes us think? There's something so particular about a horror movie's ability to just make us really face the scary shit in the world we live in. Obsession, written and directed by YouTuber Curry Barker, has become a continuation of a trend I'm noticing in the horror space. Weird niggas on YouTube who make skits get like $40 and a hand job and make the scariest and most thought-provoking thing you've seen in the last few months. We've had the guys who made Talk to Me, there was Barbarian, now Obsession, and it does seem that weird little funny niggas online with talent tend to do incredible things in the horror space. I don't know if it's something about the genre, something about how fear hits us. I do think that there's something about someone who's really funny tends to be the same skill sets to make something really scary. I think both people tend to be quite good at observation, and maybe that's why that translates quite well, and I fuck with it mightily. I have seen this movie twice. I'm going to see it a third time tonight. This will be the first time I see it with another person. But the movie's a thought provoker. And I think it's also become a new litmus test for me. Because again, if you leave this movie with a particular viewpoint, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I am saying, but I'm saying you're pretty fucking wrong. Those of you who have been diligently avoiding spoilers until now, this video will have spoilers. We're talking analysis, we're talking the script, we're talking what happens, and you know, we're talking what happens, general premise, whatnot. And we're going in. You've been warned. I think if you plan to go see it and you've been able to avoid spoilers, I said that weird, spoilers, I would go in blind. Honestly, I think I benefited most from that. And if you can't avoid it, I think it allows you to really get in, you know? But Obsession follows a meek and cowardly man named Baron, Bear for short, and the crush he has on his coworker, Nikki. After chickening out of confessing his feelings for her while driving her home from a night out with friends, he wishes on a one-wish willow, a novelty toy that supposedly grants the user one wish, that she will love him more than anyone in the fucking world.
I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the entire world.
And what he gets is a horrifyingly codependent relationship that makes you question who the real monster really is. Well, I didn't question. I think it was pretty clear. I don't fuck with Bear. Spoiler. And if you really fuck with Bear, allow me to convince you otherwise. I didn't fuck with that nigga from the jump. I think it has been really interesting to see the different ways in which people leave this movie. I do think that on my side of the internet, the interwebs, I find that people generally come away with a similar general thought process, but they tend to have like different things that they really hone in on. Which is very interesting. I feel like it's really been cool, like after watching it, to watch other people's takeaways from it. It's been super cool. And honestly, if you wanted to, you could go in 80 million directions talking about this movie. But apparently there's a whole other side of the internet that I was less familiar with, who are Bear sympathizers or apologists. And that concerns me. Remember I said the whole like scary movies show you what is scary within the world thing I was talking about. Yeah, some of y'all scare me. I will be relaying my thoughts on the movie, the characters, the comedic and directional choices. This is a very funny movie. I've noticed people don't really want to say that. Or maybe I'm just fucked up. This movie's hilarious. And the general confused and bewildered musings I've had about the responses people have had for the movie as a whole. But before we get into that, hello. It's Kendall here. New around here, welcome. Not new around here. What is up? Home? Skillet? Biscuit. What have you been up to? Me and my boyfriend started watching the other island, Love Island. I don't plan to make videos on it because it's just so many fucking episodes. They have an episode, what is it, 5 or 6 days a week? And I've never watched Love Island, so this is my first introduction to Love Island. As a first-time watcher, my initial thoughts are far too much kissing. As of filming, they just got rid of Sean, and I actually liked him. Who'd have thought? You brought a cop in with a child, and I was like, he's actually my favorite? Weird. Man, he was fine as fuck. The one girl with the little boop boopy doop, she bad as hell. And I was like, oh, I'd be concerned. I wouldn't even get mad. Like, yeah, I get it. She fine as fuck. Let me know what your thoughts are on that if you are so inclined. But that's all the little catch-up rambles. And so let's send it over to Ad Roll Kennie. Thank y'all. Hello there, it's Ad Roll Kennie, and today's video is sponsored by Factor. Factor meals are made with fresh ingredients, balanced macros, and at least 2 vegetables per meal, built to help you reach your nutrition goals this summer. I started working with a personal trainer again, and the last thing I want to do after working out is come back and make food. And if I don't make food, I probably won't eat. And if I don't eat, I'm sleeping the whole day, baby. I need to eat something. I don't feel like cooking. I don't feel like waiting for delivery to come. That's where Factor comes in. You can get something balanced, protein rich for them gains. I'm trying to have a shelf in a month and a half. I'll keep you updated. There's no planning, no prep, no cooking, no cleanup. They're constantly coming out with new delicious meals. They recently launched salads and the Caesar. I'm a fan. But they also have elote corn, miso edamame salads, and their warm meals are also delicious and interesting, plus over 70 add-ons like juices, breakfast items, peanut butter bites. Also, now the summer is in full swing, I plan to start traveling, and it's a great thing to bring on a plane. Their snacks and green juice. They have all types of stuff for you. So if you would like to check out Factor, go to factor75.com. Use code KennieFB50 for 50% off your first box, plus free breakfast for a year. That's KennieFB50 at factor75.com for 50% off, plus free breakfast for a year. Big thanks to Factor for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get on to the debauchery. Like I said, spoilers ahead. If you don't want spoilers, this is probably the time that you should head out. But if you want me to walk you through the scariness, conundrum, the thought-provokingness of the movie, here we are. The film opens with the main character, Bear, speaking headfirst, directly into the camera. He seems to be at a diner, and he's confessing his feelings to someone, a girl by the name of Nikki. And we can learn from his initial word choices that this confession is very heartfelt, something that he's been holding on to for a long time, seemingly years. He says something along the lines of like, she was the only person that was nice to him when he moved into the area. You can deduce that maybe they've known each other since high school, and he's just been holding these feelings in for years. But come to find out, he isn't confessing his feelings to Nikki. Instead, he is practicing on a random waitress with his friend Ian, kind of grading his approach. He isn't a fan, says that Bear should be more lighthearted about it, less heavy about it, nag her with a nickname that she hates from high school, Freaky Nikki. Ian is a fucking idiot and not a good friend. He seems to be one of the 4 people who are a core part of Bear's friend group. So after this training session of sorts with Ian, he goes home to find out that his cat, Sandy, died. She has seemingly gotten into his deceased grandmother's medication, and we don't see her dying or anything like that, but she is dead when they arrive, so warning. And then we see him crying, sobbing, heartbroken over losing one of the few things that he has left for connection, and we panned downward from him sobbing on the bed, and we see the title of Obsession. It would seem that the throes of loss and increased isolation, Bear finds himself scrolling through Nikki's Instagram page, and she becomes a sort of a beacon, a symbol of perhaps if Nikki loved him, everything would make sense. But a core component of Bear's character is that he a bitch. And what I mean by that is he's a coward. And I don't mean that even necessarily as an insult, just as a descriptor. It's a core character trait. Everything he does from the beginning of this movie to the end, in part informed by a deep-rooted cowardice. He's also quite pitiful. Some would call him a nice guy, which should be a warning. There's a pattern we've noticed with the nice guys. They're not very nice. But beyond that, it would seem that Bear is written and formatted to be mundane, ordinary, timid, wistful. And now with 2 major losses happening back to back, he is very sympathetic. Like, you feel bad for the guy, of course. Like, wow, he's really having a rough time. Like, they're not looking up. Him and his 3 other friends have seemingly a regular trivia night. Ian didn't want him to confess to Nikki at trivia night because he didn't want it to ruin the night. And so when Nikki calls asking him when he's making his way over, he initially turns her down. But he doesn't tell her that the main reason he's not going is because he's mourning his cat. But she's able to convince him to make his way out because she was going to tell him something, quote unquote. She tells him that she is putting in her 2 weeks at the job that they all work at. And being that this might be one of the last times he would have an excuse to see her, he makes his way to trivia. While on the phone, she accidentally drops her crystal necklace down the drain, prompting him to head over to one of those crystal woo-woo type shops to get her another one. But while he's there, he discovers the One Wish Willow, a novelty toy of the 1980s that claimed that you could make any one wish you want and it will come true if you break this willow in half. When he goes up to the cashier about it, she's like, hey man, yeah, they're quite popular. Please don't come here complaining about it afterwards. And he understands her as joking when she says, you know, people come back here complaining, they end up dead or wishing they were dead. And he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's funny. In fairness, he don't know he in a horror movie, but we do. So off he goes to trivia night with Nikki, Ian, and a 3rd friend, Sarah. And while at the bar, he seems to be gearing himself up to do his confession to Nikki, only for Ian to come and cock block, saying he doesn't want him to confess during the night out because, again, it would ruin trivia night. Now that he's blocked the confession, Sarah comes over and the entire moment is gone. Instead, they're all at the bar and Bear has them toast to Sandy, his cat. A thing that only Sarah notices to be strange. She asks why did they toast to her, and he tells her that she died. Notably, Sarah is there to console him, to hug him. And if you don't get the vibe already, the spoiler is Sarah really likes Bear. She's not particularly subtle about it, can't see beyond his crush for Nikki. At the end of the night, Bear offers to take Nikki home. Ian is like, get your girl home safe. And Nikki responds quite sharply and strongly to that, basically saying, ugh, don't call me that. Don't call me his girl. Don't say that. Don't say it like that. So this could be a check in the box that perhaps Nikki doesn't share the same feelings as Bear. But there is a vibe that perhaps she may. On the ride, she basically says, like, when it hits you that Sandy's gone, you know, I'll be there when it does. She starts to talk about how she feels stuck at the job and that she wants to leave, start doing something different, focus on her writing. She wants to write a love story. And notably, Bear asks if it's a romance. Nikki disagrees, saying, no, it's a love story, a distinction that Bear doesn't seem to understand. I understood romance as a genre, a superficial understanding of attraction, passion, while a love story ventures into the complicated feelings and realities of people in love and life in general. But As we'll see, Bear only has a very shallow understanding of what quote unquote love is, living pretty much entirely in a fantasy of what being with Nikki could be like. I think it was also pretty clear from the beginning that the way that Bear observes Nikki is in this very fantasy kind of projected manic pixie dream girl lens. He sees her again as this projection of like a life that could be better, but one that he's too cowardly to pursue, or he has been until this night. Eventually, Nikki gets a bit contemplative, basically saying that Bear is the only person she can talk to about these things, like her wants and desires in regards to her novel. When he drops her off at her house, she brings up how Sarah has a crush on him, seemingly trying to check the temperature of whether or not he's interested in her, which can be read several ways. Either she's just trying to see how he feels about Sarah so that she can be, push them together, or she's trying to see if there's a world where he sees Sarah only as a friend, and in which case, how does he feel about Nikki? The world will never know though, because instead of confessing to her, he negs her, calling her Freaky Nikki, the thing that she outright said that she does not like. She gets very frustrated by this and says, dude, if you like me, you should say it. She gives him an opening to be honest. And instead of being honest, he chickens out and says he thinks they are really good friends. And so she leaves. She's like, okay, good. Again, unclear if it was out of relief that he didn't like her or just acceptance. Okay. Regardless of how Nikki may feel about him, he sees them as friends, and she has accepted that. Again, we will never know, because in front of her house, he makes a decision to use that silly little toy and wish that Nikki would love him more than anyone in the fucking world. And then the next hour and a half ensues, and it gets bad. Oh my God. Now, I think we would be hard pressed to believe that Bear believed the toy would work, right? I think it was just out of frustration, and who believes that the magical thing that they bought for $6.99 is actually magical, So he was probably just frustrated, like, man, I just really wish she would love me. But just then, there in the shadows, Nikki is standing there looking at him, and she comes back to the car and she's noticeably weird. She's acting strangely, trying to almost translate his face with her eyes, like she's squinting, like looking at him for the first time or the millionth. This is kind of hard to tell. Kind of confused about what she's looking at, but she keeps talking, and this conversation just gets weirder and weirder. She asks him to stay, saying she needs comfort because she just lost her cat. And then she's like, wait, no, you lost your cat. Let's go inside and drink. Yeah, come inside. Yeah, have a drink. Yeah. And then, just as quickly as that shift happened, she's aware again. She's like, what the fuck?
Wait, what the fuck?
Are you okay?
I'm acting so weird.
I'm acting so weird. I'm sorry. All right. But then there's another shift, and she's like pouting and childish, and she's folding her arms, and she's able to convince him to take her to his home to stay the night because she doesn't want to be alone. She says her father is dying. She asks him to sleep in the bed with her, and he hesitantly agrees. She takes off her shirt, lays her head on his shoulder. She leans in and kisses him, and he's like, whoa, wait, hold on. But they do kiss, only for her to snap out of it and says, ah, what the fuck? And then she's like falling off the bed, like, whoa, what the fuck was that? And she's back to apologizing, saying she just needs to go to bed. And then she starts sobbing, saying she's just so lost. That was a lot. It was a weird night. She's acting weird. But Bear sleeps on the floor, and during the night, he goes online looking up people's testimonials about the One Wish Willow with mixed results. Some saying it works, others saying it doesn't. But this seems to satisfy any initial thoughts that the toy actually was real. And instead, he chalks her behavior up to reeling from her dad's illness, learning about it, having some type of breakdown. And when he goes back into the room, Nikki is there in shadow. They always cast her in such a darkness. And it's ominous. They do a great job with the color of this movie, Jesus. But she's there asking him to lie next to her. The next morning, he finds out before their joint shift at work that she had taken his dead cat out of the garbage and made a memorial shrine to the cat. And as weird as this is, I think his reaction is just as weird. His reaction is, oh, that's not good. No, we can't make that's weird, Nikki. It's like a rather mild chastising, like one would do a child who just genuinely doesn't understand. More on that in a bit. At work, he tells Ian that Nikki has been acting very weird. He says this a lot more emphatically than he does to Nikki. He says he thinks it may be because of her father dying, which Ian finds strange because she's never been particularly close to her father and he lives in a completely different state. But Bear is like, maybe this has switched things. Maybe she's having a mental breakdown even. They both end up thinking that perhaps her strange behavior was because she was on Molly or something. She obviously was tripping balls. At the end of their shift, she drives home with Ian the way she usually does. So it seems overall that she's acting normally. Notably, while they're having that entire conversation about whether or not she was on Molly, she's staring at what we know is Bear, but it could be staring at both of them. Later that night, she comes to his door, shrouded in shadow. She comes to apologize, awkwardly saying that, yeah, she was on Molly, and yeah, I've just been acting weird, and like, yeah, it's not like you took advantage of me or anything in that moment. And those words freak him out a bit by the very mention of it. And she's like, yeah, I said you didn't. Calm down. But the more important thing is that she says, I know you like me, Bear. And it seems in that moment, all concerns about whether or not this is real, if this is a mental illness, drugs, or the willow, no longer matter to this nigga. He is living the dream. So all of a sudden, these niggas in love, booed up, making out at work, cooking together, basically living together. Everything is wonderful as far as Bear is concerned. This is the dream. And regardless of any of the myriad possible reasons for why she's behaving like this suddenly, all of which aren't necessarily that she loves Bear, he don't give a fuck. He's living the dream. But one day, this scene is very iconic. If you've seen anyone referencing a scene, it's probably this one. I saw a Lego rendition of it. They have brought out Legos. They go out to dinner, and during the meal, Ian calls. He calls twice, and he's like, okay, well, if he's calling so many times, I should check. And while on the phone, Ian warns him saying, hey, I was looking online. Nikki's father is fine. He doesn't have cancer. He's not dying. He's healthy as a baby. She's lying. He also says that he heard from Sarah that Nikki has always seen him as a little brother, as a friend. So the fact that all of a sudden they're super lovey-dovey is really weird. Like something is going on with her. This seems to make Bear realize, even subconsciously, that this may all be because of the willow. While he's having this conversation too, you see her like creepily walking to check like where he is. She's always not too far away. These be the relationships that niggas be wanting though. We won't go into that diatribe, but some people were like, I get it. I kind of want a relationship like this. Like, you can't live without me. Bitch, go to therapy. Once he gets back to the table, she gives him a gift, a stone that represents courage. It's an heirloom that she originally got from her mother. She says she loves him so much that she doesn't know where she'd be without him. This leads him to asking, do you love me more than anyone in the world? The exact words he used when he made the wish. And she says shyly, yes, Bear. And with that, he asks whether or not her father really has cancer.
Does your dad really have cancer?
And there is a pregnant silence. She's just staring at him unblinkingly, stiffly. Says, no.
No.
That seems to be the answer to the question. But what actually happens is it crescendos into her having a full-on tantrum in the middle of the restaurant. She goes, no, 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 don't do that!
No, 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 don't do that!
I thought we were having a nice date! I thought we were having a nice date! And she's standing up in the middle of the fucking big boy, sobbing like a child, having a full-on meltdown in the restaurant. And this is the component that I was like, I feel like I haven't seen very many, if anyone, kind of hone in on this component. And I'm curious what you guys think, right? I find the most horrifying part of Nikki post curse is not just that she's terrifying, is that people describe the character as codependent, scary, abusive. If on its face, if this were the relationship we were in and there was no one wish willow and none of the coercion that goes into that. But if she just was like this in the relationship, I think that's very fair. But also, I've yet to hear anyone describe her as childish, which is a key component to the shift. Nikki's new persona, the new Nikki, the in love Nikki, is something uncannily childlike. And I'll bring this up more as we go along, but I think that's probably the most horrifying component of this. Throughout the movie, her childishness is a way to denote that she's out of control and that this love has completely overtaken her. It has regressed her, and that regression worsens throughout the movie. She is helpless like a child. She is temperamental like a child. She's dependent like a child, and she is in constant pursuit of attention, approval, love like a child. And I think, there's something really awful about that. Again, more as we get into the more disturbing aspects, particularly of Bear's character, that come in later. I think it's kind of one of the I guess I'm trying to hone in on the really gross feelings I feel like when watching the movie, is that part of this aspect of new Nikki is like a perversion of what she could have been like if she were in a healthy relationship. Because like, if her and Bear were in a healthy relationship, she'd be able to feel safe with him. She'd be able to be free with him. And sometimes when people are in happy relationships, they can kind of let their inner child out, and there's like a playfulness and there's a freedom and there's a comfort in that. But because this is formed in such an awful context, the overt possible negatives of that kind of dynamic is really fucky, and it gets worse. It gets bad, but I'm just setting you up for that. I think that whole component of like seeing her like as if she's been forcibly regressed is okay. Like, up until this point, before the curse, we saw Nikki as a pretty, like, a cool girl. She's pretty chill. She's playful. She's funny. She's relaxed. But this new version, the one that whether Bear is fully aware of it or not, the one that he wanted, is this shell of who Nikki is as a person, as an adult, as an autonomous being. More on that later. Anyway, I'd also like to say, at this moment, more than any other time, Bear is aware that this state that she is in is because of his wish. It has sunken in that she is here because of him. So the fact that they have sex in the immediate next scene is so fucking horrifying to me. Not to confuse anyone, I'm not calling Bear a pedophile. I'm not calling him a pedo, or even that he was looking to regress her in any way. Again, I don't believe he thought that the Willow thing would work. What I'm saying is her having that lack of autonomy doesn't stop him from having sex with her immediately in the next scene.
Then why does it matter?
Doesn't matter to me.
Bear isn't a monstrous offender in the way that is usually imagined or depicted. If anything, he is sympathetic in a way that many people could see themselves in, and that is why he is horrifying. Now, if you think I'm being too hard on Bear, I have more reasons to believe that he was, at the very least, incredibly selfish throughout this movie. But I think the seeds are shown incredibly early. One could say that him making the wish in the first place was indicative of him being incredibly selfish again. But at this point, all bets are off. That nigga sucks. And I'm saying this because I saw some comments about the movie where they're like, this shift in Bear, like, I never saw that coming. He was such a nice guy, and he wasn't. He was never nice per se. The sex scene itself is incredibly uncomfortable to watch. Nikki's eyes are distant, as we've seen in those fleeting moments where Nikki kind of snaps out of it. I think that's indicative of the real Nikki, OG Nikki, being somewhere just below the surface, which makes that scene even more horrifying. Not only a complete invasion of her body without her consent, but knowing that she is somewhere in there, semi-conscious, comatose. Harrowing. He wakes up in the middle of the night and finds her watching him from a dark corner. And he's terrified. She's in his sweater, wearing nothing but underwear under it. She says it smells like him. Then she goes back to the corner and starts sobbing about how she doesn't think he loves her as much as I do. And though visibly freaked out, Bear just asks her to come back to bed. She does a bunch of weird shit the entire scene, like movement-wise. They played around with like speed and lighting and like her movements throughout this like second half of the movie. It's really fucky. I love it. But eventually she does get back in bed. And when he starts trying to leave, when he even considers getting up, she screams at him with her whole chest. Stay! The next morning, he wakes up to find that she had cut a piece of his hair off, for which he gently tells her, "Don't do that, Nikki. That's bad." I don't know if we ever find out what she did with this piece of hair. If we did, somebody let me know. I missed it. But whatever concern he has, legitimate concern about her cutting his hair off, it all disappears when she kisses him. So he says, "Hey, let's not do any more weird stuff anymore." And she's like, okay. And he's like, "Yeah, let's not do that either." He has work today and she doesn't. She packs him a lunch, only to find out that she had completely duct taped the door, trying to keep him inside. Again, Nikki wasn't on the schedules today, so instead, once he's able to tear himself out of the door, she waits for him, smiling incredibly hard, until you start to hear a trickling sound as the camera pans from her face down her body, and you realize this is the sound of her pissing herself at the door, like a dog. This is where she will stand his entire workday. At work, he opens his lunch and finds 2 photos, as well as a sandwich. One photo is taken from above, but the words written under it say, "Not me." But he doesn't worry himself too much with that. She packs him a sandwich, and while he eats, he chats with Sarah. She's basically saying how confused she is that suddenly, out of nowhere, you're in a super relationship, and it's progressed very quickly. It seems like Sarah's about to tell him something rather important in regards to Nikki, but she's pulled away by her father. He has another art school application response, and she has been denied. This seems to be a pattern so far, but there is still one more school that hasn't responded, and that's the one that she really cares about the most. Now, this could have been a very adorable moment. Bear with a person who seemingly really cares for him, sees him for who he really is, wants to be with him, but he is unable to see past his transfixation, I guess, his hyperfixation on Nikki, the real one. Whether it's the real one or the fake one, it doesn't seem to matter. Even when that singular focus is pushed to the brink, namely when he realizes she had made him a sandwich from the remains of his dead cat. She cooked the cat. Several days old, unrefrigerated, originally was in the garbage cat. He throws up immediately at the thought of it. After work, Ian asks Bear to drive him home, during which Ian wants to talk about the relationship. And during this conversation, Ian again talks about how strange the progression of the relationship has been, how fast it's happened. First, you come to me saying she's having a mental breakdown, then the next thing you know, she's fine and y'all are super in love. Like, honestly, it looks like you're taking advantage of her, whatever state she seems to be in, bro. But Bear is like, no, she's been all over me, and there's nothing I've done that has, resulted in this behavior at all. So Ian's also noting the very toxic and weird codependent vibes between them. And so he's like, hey, why don't you come to this party that I'm having tonight? But Nikki isn't allowed to come. It's for boys only. I'll even tell Sarah that she can't come, and it's gonna be a boys' night. If you're in a normal, healthy relationship, there should be no problem with you being apart for 3 hours. So once he drops Ian off, Bear is like, yeah, I'm gonna tell her that. He has to practice in the rear view mirror, basically saying like, we don't cook the cat, Nikki. And while in the car, he is reminded of the one Wish Willow and decides to call the customer service line. Very funny scene, by the way. Hilarious. This whole movie is hilarious. I know it doesn't sound very funny. But there are parts of this movie that are genuinely very funny. He calls the customer service line. I think I heard somewhere that the director is the guy on the other line. And if you didn't think that Bear is the problem yet, if I have not convinced you yet, I think this call really does it all. Because he calls the line, not to say, is there anything I can do to cancel or reverse this? Because look at what's happening to her. He says, no, I'm calling because I want to alter it a little bit. She a bit too weird? Can we have a little less weird? I want to have the same level of control, just fewer adverse effects on me. And only when the customer service guy is like, yeah, no, we don't do that. He's like, okay, then let's cancel it. He was like, honestly, we don't do that either. We don't do that. Again, this scene is hilarious. He's like, yeah, no, we don't do that. And Bear is like, is her love real? Is this real? And the operator is like, just because you chose this for her doesn't make it less real, which I interpreted as the things you've chosen have real ramifications for her and everyone else. And those ramifications are real, regardless of whether or not her love is, or whether or not this was your intention when all of this started. And perhaps the most notable part of this call was when the operator says the only way for it to end was for him to die. As long as Bear lives, the wish exists, and for that time he has a moral obligation to be there for her. The operator also allows him to speak to the real Nikki, which insinuates that the real Nikki is somewhere. Her something is somewhere. And not only that, the real Nikki is in agony. She can't talk. She's just blood-curdling, screaming somewhere nebulously. So if he didn't understand the harm he was causing the person that he supposedly loves so much, he undeniably knows now. He knows that every action he makes from this moment forward is placing his desire to live out a fantasy, even one that results in him being fed his own cat, than to free Nikki from the torture he placed her in. And theoretically, if Bear is such a nice guy, would he be able to continue to behave as if they are in a relationship of his dreams, or if he's like the primary victim of these circumstances? And can he continue to do this to a person that he says he loves? Yes, is the answer to the question. Yes. Yes, he does. So he comes back into the house. She is in the exact same spot she was in before. Only this time she's pooped and peed herself, may have vomited on herself from the sheer desperation of being away from him. Only when he arrives is she able to move, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna go take a shower. I'm sorry, I'll clean it up. I'm so sorry. I'm so happy you're back, baby. While she's showering, he's again talking to her like a child. Nikki, did you cook the cat, Nikki? You can't do that, Nikki. I'm very upset about that. He then also puts his foot down and says he's going to go over Ian's. He's having a boys' night. I'm going to be gone for a few hours. She's like, very sweetly. Everything she says is very sweetly if she's not overtly screaming. She's like, I can get dressed and come with you. He says again that it's a boys' night, nervously. He's like, it's boys' night, and, it's a boys' night. And she screams and then says it's so weird because Sarah said that she's going. So it looks like she's now invited to the party. They come, they play drinking Jenga, which I've done before. Pretty fucking fun. I noticed this on my second viewing. They have to switch seats for a second, and so Bear has to move to a seat different from her, which seems to, visibly kind of make her go, what? Like she's uncomfortable, right? And someone's like, just in passing, very quietly, it was like, damn, what kind of spell did you put on her, Bear? She laughs a little too hard at that. Nikki reads the block. The game is do what's on the block or drink. She never says what the block said, but instead stands up and starts reciting a short story of hers that she's planning to write. And it is a retelling of Hansel and Gretel, in which Gretel seduces Hansel into an incestuous relationship. And if he does not relent, she will chop off his forearm and shove it up her. It is a love that only a willow tree could conjure. Harkening back to when OG Nikki was like, I think of him as a brother, but now in this twisted, perverted reality, his sister is so obsessed with him that she would chop his arm off and shove it up her coochie. So as you can imagine, left a bad taste in the room. Everyone's feeling a little weirded out, but notably Bear doesn't have a very strong reaction to that at all, while everyone else is incredibly uncomfortable. Bear is the next to pick a block, and his says, kiss the person to your left, which just so happens to be Sarah. And Nikki isn't too happy about that. And she's like, I was also the only person laughing in the theater. And I'm like, I can't be the only person that finds this movie funny. It's meant to be funny. It's a dark comedy as well. But like, I was the only person outwardly laughing. And what does that mean? With this almost, I can't even do it. I have too much lips to do it. She has this cartoonish frown. I can't do it. Too many lips. She comes over, moves Sarah out of the way so that she can kiss him. She like drags her chair out of the way. The scene was funny as fuck. I was like, she then goes on a monologue declaring that everyone in this room will die, never knowing the strength of connection like she feels for her Bear. And everyone's like, whoa, okay. Nut bitch. And all you can hear in the background is like the metronome of a ticking clock in this incredibly awkward silence. That is until Nikki snaps out of it for a second. And perhaps original Nikki gains some consciousness, freaks out screaming, "It's not me," rushes to the coffee table and bashes her own head in with a bottle. Everyone else is like, ah! But weirdly enough, again, Bear has no real reaction, while everyone else screams at him to help her. It would seem that Nikki is back in her curse by the time he drives her to the hospital. She refuses treatment, so he just takes her home. He stands up to go to the bathroom, and she pleads to be able to stay outside while he goes. And this seems to be the moment where Bear laments that everything was so perfect. She was normal. She was beautiful. Now she done fucked her face up. She's not the fantasy anymore, I guess. But he just needs her to act normal. I know I did this thing to you, but can you like just be normal about it, Nikki? He's like, does Nikki like me? Again, fully aware that there is a distinction between this entity he's interacting with that is controlling her body and the real Nikki. And she smiles saying, of course. I'm your freaking Nikki. And he's exasperated. This is all he's ever wanted. He admits that he knows it's not all Nikki's ever wanted, but he's like, we need to have space. A real relationship, a healthy relationship, a normal relationship has space. This makes her break into a tantrum, screaming that she will be anything he wants her to be. She falls to her knees, pleading. That's not something Nikki would say. And in this moment, he realizes, or accepts, I should say, that none of this is real. She starts moving real weird. I don't know how to describe it other than they reverse the tapes in a weird way, and I don't know what she says. It's very weird. But basically, Blair is like, how about I sleep over at Ian's tonight? You tweaking. To which she threatens to kill herself in a very flowery poem type way, the way that she did with the Hansel and Gretel forearm pussy thing. And so he stays for the night. In the middle of the night, he gets a text from Sarah telling him to come meet her in the park. And though he refuses at first, he eventually gets up to make his way over. And while getting ready to leave, he is stopped by Nikki. Not the curse, the real Nikki. She says that she, referring to the cursed Nikki, is asleep. Please don't wake her up. I'm begging you to please kill me, to free her from the torment she is under. And Bear, for all the Bear apologists out there, this nigga says, even with that little a similar pitiful fucking frown on his face. Sad face. What would be so bad about being with me? Is it so bad to be with me? And to this, OG Nikki says, I've never been with you, Bear. And so he leaves her there, begging for him to free her from this. You Bear apologists, we don't click. We don't see things the same way. Harrowing. Anyway, he meets up with Sarah in her car, and she shows her concern again about the codependent weird relationship. She just banged her own head in the fucking party, dude. She's like, this is ridiculous. This is unhealthy. Eventually, she shows that another reason that she called him out is because she got the letter from the college that she really wanted to go to, and she wanted him to open it. And she wanted to share this moment with him. Also during this conversation, she admits to knowing a secret about Nikki. She tells Bear that Nikki and Ian had been hooking up for the last few years. Something Ian was just so conveniently not telling him. So all while you were pining over this girl for the last 6 years or something, he'd been fucking her on and off for 2 years. It's real casual. It reframes a lot of the actions Ian took. What component did you play in his inability to be honest with her? Or did you want her and that's why you didn't want them together? But regardless, Sarah is like, it's a shame because you need someone more chill. And this nigga, Bear, after fucking up Nikki's entire existence, has the nerve to have this face where he's like kinda open to it. The idea of Sarah and him. And the saddest part is there was already someone who liked him, for him, who cared about him, wanted to be with him. He was so wrapped up in his bullshit fantasy with Nikki, he couldn't see that. Shit, I personally am in the thought process that if he would have been honest with Nikki, she may have given it a shot as well. He did all this for no fucking reason, just because he's so fucking insecure. And now after fucking everything, I sound like Elmo again. And now, after fucking everything up, he has the nerve to want to sit here and consider Sarah. Especially when she about to die. I knew that was happening when I saw the shot. I just knew this composition, something's gonna happen to that window. Admittedly, I didn't expect what happened to happen, but I knew she wasn't gonna survive this conversation. She was gonna be a tragic casualty in his bullshit story. And so, just then, Curse Nikki comes running in head first into the driver's window and bashes Sarah's skull into a brick so many times that her face implodes and she loses an eyeball. Was it Yemi that said she was looking like SpongeBob when he had the suds? That's fucked up. She didn't deserve that. But Nikki's there, cloyingly sweet, coaxing him, saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but baby, this is all your fault. This is all your fault. And you need to help me hide her body." Which they do. In the back of the car, Curse Nikki tells him to go to the music store, and she says she'll finish up here. You know, you head back home. This is the first time she wanted to be separate from this nigga. There ain't nothing she doing that is of God. She tells him to go home. She'll take it from here. The thing is, the bitch scary as fuck up close. Imagine how she is from afar. He drives until sunrise, coming to a hill overlooking the city, and opens Sarah's letter. She was accepted. That broke me. She didn't deserve this. Sarah did nothing but love a loser, and then she got hit with the brick. No. Bear screams, fully crashing out, decides to go to the store in hysterics covered in blood, sees that there are 2 remaining One Wish Willows remaining, and decides to buy them himself. Again, the owner, a comedically brazen dude, is like, well, they got hella warnings on the box, nigga. Like, I don't know how you fucked this up that bad. He's like, I know, I did it, and I fucked it up. He's like, well, what you could do is get someone to make a contradicting wish to stop the first wish that you wished. You have to find someone that hasn't used the One Wish Willow because you get 1 wish. If you try to break it again after you already done it, it won't even break, as we see. He rushes to Ian's, his friend, supposedly, and begs him to use the 1 wish to cancel out the wish that he made on Nikki. And instead of using it to help him, he thinks this is bullshit, and he's like, well, I wish for $1 billion, crack. And then immediately comes storming from the skies billions of dollars. Now with only one hope yet, Bear rushes to Nikki to make the wish, thinking like, she says she'll do anything for me. Maybe she'll wish to be back to normal for me. But when she comes home, Sarah's naked body in a chair, and Nikki has taken her dress, drawn her tattoos, and started chain smoking like Sarah. In a video I saw referencing this movie, I want to say it was Amanda the Jedi. Hey girl, what's up? I ain't talked to you in a minute. How you doing? Anyway, she referenced how Nikki was wearing Sarah's scalp, but it's hard to see because their hair is the same color. If true, insane. But she's done a lot of stuff in the last hour and 45 minutes. So she's at the house, threatening to shoot her and Bear while bashing her own skull in with a brick. Ian comes rushing over saying, whoa, this whole thing is real, man. And just then, Nikki shoots him in the face upon entering. She then goes full exorcist, throws up in Bear's face while screeching that she will shove the gun up her. And to that, he screams, I love you! I love you! I love you! Please calm down. He's able to break away for a moment in the bathroom while she bangs on the door while he's just trying to catch his breath. He looks down and finds the stone that Nikki gave him, the one that stands for courage. And so, upon that, he considers shooting himself. But he can't do it. So he goes into his grandma's medicine and takes a bunch of the pills that the cat died from in an effort to end it all. This is his final act of courage, his final repentance for the original Nikki, to make amends for all the selfish things that he's done, only for him to pussy out to the very end and try to make himself throw up. Couldn't even kill himself right. Goddamn. But right when he was trying to do it, you hear from outside of the door, Nikki opening the one willow box and snapping the twig in half, wishing on the only wish that mattered to her. You know what it is. And for a moment, Bear comes out of the bathroom and is completely as obsessed with her as she is him. They're close to each other, right when the pills start to kick in, and eventually he dies, seizing on the floor. Nikki, distraught, goes to kill herself with the gun, only for OG Nikki to finally come back to consciousness once Bear is dead. And now OG Nikki must look around and find her three closest friends have all died in gruesome, disturbing ways, and she undoubtedly won't be able to explain that to the fucking cops. So even in death, OG Nikki is forced to deal with the actions of a cowardly, selfish man. Because whether the love was real or not, Bear's actions were. And the people that are forced to hold that did nothing but be the object of a man's desire. Egad. I could literally talk about this movie all day, especially because there are so many angles to talk about the movie. From the lens of male loneliness or just loneliness in general. Men act like they're the only lonely niggas. The nice guy offenders, limerence, the projection of the manic pixie dream girl, unrequited love, infantilization, selfishness, yada 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 yada, codependency. But I think I will leave the deep dives for you guys in the comments. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments below. But the movie is so good and so tragic. One, Sarah didn't deserve any of that. All she did was like a loser, and now she dead. Couldn't even go out to her fucking dream school. Nikki's torture, seemingly living in a hellish liminal space, while this person you thought was your friend plays out his role play fantasy with your body. And the saddest part is, I think, it was, again, so fucking unnecessary. Again, I think OG Nikki was open to the concept of being with him. She even gave him the opportunity to save everything, to save her, to let her choice matter more than his fantasy. And he couldn't even do that. He made the choice over and over and over again to take her choices away. And Bear, a seemingly nice and unassuming dude who, instead of facing his fear of rejection, chose to be a bitch until his dying breath, taking everyone in his orbit with him. Get fucked. So if you're a Bear apologist, this is not a safe space for you. I'm gonna call you dumb. I'm gonna call you stupid. I'm gonna call you silly goose, doodle head, boo. That's where I stand on it. You can still leave your dumb comment though. Comment is a comment. And if you like today's video, feel free to like today's video. Follow me on social media, Instagram, Bluesky, both of which are KennieJD. Follow me on Twitch, NotKennieTV. Follow my VOD channel from my Twitches that get edited into fun little videos. I'm doing a bunch of shit these days. I also started a podcast with my friend Olayemi, and it's called Olay and Kennie, and we have a cute little theme song, so you should check it out on our channel. We only did one video as of filming. I think we'll do at least one or two soon-ish. Apparently bullying works, so if you keep bullying, maybe we'll consider it. I don't know. But that's all for today, folks, and I'll see you guys next time.